Hello, Internet! Unfortunately, I don't have much time to chat. I'm on the hunt to find something very few have seen in person, the rarest game of all time. It's not We Play, I can tell that much. Many people are familiar with the concept of rare video games, but not necessarily what it actually entails. As simple as it seems, there's actually a lot of factors determining whether or not a game is rare. If you look up Pokemon on an online store, the prices of the early games in the series could lead you to believe that there aren't many out there. The first generation of Pokemon is one of the best-selling games of all time. See, the two factors that influence prices are supply and demand. Pokemon is a very popular series that doesn't re-release the early games much, so the demand is high, but what makes a game rare to me is low supply. And that's what I'm looking for here. A game out there that virtually nobody has been able to get their hands on. The kind of game legends are made of. A great place to start would be games that are released in limited quantities to begin with. We can find a lot of these over at Limited Run Games, I mean, it's kind of in the name. They've got a big selection of retro and indie games with physical releases, usually a few thousand copies each. That's less than your standard retail release, but it's nowhere near the rarest game of all time. If I had to guess, I'd say the hardest to find limited run game is Axiom Verge for the Wii U. Not only is it a limited release of an indie game, but it also released on a corpse, so it's definitely pretty sought after. The console fails when it and its games don't sell very well, making one a great place to look for rare stuff. Most of the games I found for the Wii U were expensive, but not necessarily hard to find, with an exception being the version of Spyro's Adventure, which was released only in Japan and published by Square Enix. Similarly, it's also pretty tough to find rare 7th gen games, but we do have a few more examples, especially Xenoblade Chronicles. It was a pretty late release over here and exclusive to GameStop on top of that. Actually, games exclusive to certain stores are often among the more rare ones. Pokemon Box was only available to the Pokemon Center, and Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut could only be rented at Blockbuster or won in a contest. We're definitely getting closer to the rarest game of all time. Around this point, there wasn't as much documentation on games, and a lot more platforms that didn't quite take off. For the Sega Saturn, you have things like Panzer Dragoon Saga and Mega Man 8, and a ton for everybody's favorite ice cream machine. The rarest on the Virtual Boy is probably Jack Bros, a pretty good Shin Megami Tensei spin-off. Even for a console as prominent as the NES, a lot of the later releases slipped through the cracks. Snow Bros, the Jetsons' Cogswell's Caper, and especially Little Samson are tricky to find, but they're not alone. No, the rarest games on the NES are the competition cartridges, Nintendo World Championships and Campus Challenge, with the latter only having one cartridge known to exist. Well, I guess having a single cartridge would make it the rarest game, but that feels a little cheap. It was used for a contest and not meant to be available to the public, so what if we found one that was, and has just as few copies in circulation? We're at the final frontier, Atari 2600. This was one of the earliest consoles, and without strict requirements of what could be made for it, many games flew under the radar, especially during the market crash. There's the blue-handled Air Raid, mail-order exclusive Birthday Mania and Red Sea Crossing, and finally Gamma Attack. Despite being produced and sold to the public, only one copy has ever surfaced. I finally found it! The rarest game of all time! At last, my collection is complete! I'm starting to think this wasn't worth it.